Step one, you say you need to talk. He walks, you say sit down, it's just a talk. He smiles politely back at you. You step politely.
Instrumental, as many people will testify here in Durham. I can't introduce you with any sort of real. I can't introduce you properly, I know, because she has been instrumental. I've got, as I said, Dot's also a trustee of the Youth of Faces and Voices at Recovery. I'm very proud of her. Please come up, Dot, and give us your presentation.
Am I good to go? I'll make a start while the slides are being prepared. I'm just going to kind of run through kind of how we've got here today, hosting the UK Recovery Walk in Durham, and just pick up a little bit on the process where, you know, it kind of began, although I'm sure it began long before we realised it was beginning. And just kind of talk you through, and then do a little bit of a case study, which is going to pick up on family issues, which today we're looking at spirituality and families. But just to kind of follow on from Mark, you know, Mark went up to Leap, came back, was kind of so excited about what he'd seen, hadn't experienced anything like it, and really wanted that in Durham. And, you know, thank goodness he wanted that in Durham, and he commissioned it in Durham, because that was the beginning, really. No, you can go back. Sorry. We kind of, in 2011, the Recovery Academy Durham was commissioned by Mark. We kind of had a multi-agency working party to start planning it. So we had all the governance, we went everything through patient safety, we had all the policies and procedures in place, but of course, we hadn't done anything like this before, and certainly as the organisation that was commissioned to kind of deliver on the therapeutic side, I hadn't done anything like that before. So I had to reach out to communities, to Leap, who were fantastic in showing us the way, helping, supporting us every step of the way. We opened the doors of the RAD on, I think officially we admitted our first people, and I know some of those people are in the room today. I think from memory it was the 5th of December 2011. And as a manager I knew how to ensure everybody was safe, but I didn't have a clue about how to take this thing forward in terms of the therapeutic delivery. And again, thank goodness we had staff in the county who lived their life through the principles of the programme we were about to deliver. And, you know, I had to learn from those that knew it best. I had to take a step back, which, you know, managers are not very good at. Managers are not very good at taking a step back and saying, okay, you're the experts. And one of the experts is in the room grinning from ear to ear, because she'll probably remember how we were running about like, oh my God, behind a closed door, please help me, I don't know what to do, how are we going to deal with this? But we did, you know, we managed, and our first 2 admissions were, you know, living a wonderful life in recovery today, 4 years later. Then came the banner. Durham Miners Gala is a massive part of the culture of County Durham. We march together in unity on Durham Big Meeting Day for our culture, our history. You know, we walk celebrating who we are and how we've got where we are today in the county. And, you know, we were really fortunate to be able to secure the funding to create a recovery banner that was designed by people in recovery in County Durham. And we attended Durham Miners Gala for the first year in 2012, not really knowing what was going to happen. I think there was 35 of us that day, not really knowing whether we were going to be accepted, but knowing that people in County Durham needed to see people in recovery. It's a county that's fuelled by alcohol use. You know, alcohol has affected more families than, you know, I'll never know, but we knew that we wanted to show people that recovery is to be celebrated, and recovery is something, you know, to put a face on it. And we attended the first Durham Miners Gala in 2012, and we've gone every year since. And we have an incredible day. We you know, from the minute we get there to the end of it, we laugh, we dance, and I'm sure the 85,000 in the city that day who were all heavily under the influence of alcohol won't believe that we are not. But you know, that's the case, and that's a photograph from this year's Miners Gala. And another kind of byproduct, really, of you know, by the time the choir came along, we'd attended our first recovery walk in Brighton. We'd gone there on a minibus and saw these thousands of people celebrating. You know, we'd not experienced anything like that before. By this stage, you know, the RAD had kind of, it had had about a year, so we'd had a few people successfully complete. At that stage, the Durham Recovery and Wellbeing was coming on board. We had a recovery centre for people who were in recovery from alcohol. So we were starting to get the beginnings of a recovery community. And we attended Brighton, and you know, Mark and I kind of said that day, we want this walk in Durham. We didn't really think about how we were going to do it or whether we would have people to come to, but we wanted it, and we knew it was the right thing to do. When we bid for the walk that Manchester won last year, and you know, I'm pleased Manchester did, because I don't think we were quite ready for it last year, but we are this year without a doubt. One of the byproducts of coming back on the bus from Brighton was a bit of a sing-song. You know, we're a bit competitive in Durham, and if we see other places doing things, we want to do it as well. And Raucous Caucus Recovery Chorus was singing all the way around in Brighton, and we wanted to do that. So we sang for 8 hours on the way back, and by the time we got back to Durham, we had a choir. And you know, the choirs had some incredible experiences singing here in Durham Cathedral 3 times. The first official performance was in here in Durham Cathedral. And the choirs carried a message of recovery to lots of places outside of the treatment system, outside of the recovery environment. And it has a strong message. You know, the choir is filled with singers who, you know, not that too long ago were broken people in the streets causing havoc to the community, and now they proudly sing in a choir. It's quite unbelievable, really, but that's what recovery does. This is a picture of our first planning meeting for the recovery walk. I never would have believed we would have got here back in 2011, when I was running around like a headless chicken, scared to death with this 12-step rehab, wondering, you know, what we were doing and how we were doing it. And, you know, 4 years down the line, this is one of the outcomes. A group of people who were up for planning the UK recovery walk in Durham. Incredible stuff. And yeah, I'm going to move on now to a case study. And this case study is going to pick up on family issues. The case study, female, grew up in a typical County Durham mining community. Father was a heavy drinker, domestic violence most weekends. She describes herself as a child as feeling lost, ignored, fearful, carried a lot of shame because there was things going on in the house that people were aware of, you know, police at the door on a weekend, and carried a lot of guilt. She describes the guilt as being kind of an overriding feeling of something that she had no control over, but felt responsible. Parents divorced when she was 16. You know, what she says is that her mother always said, as soon as you're 16, I can leave. So, you know, that responsibility was really embedded in that it was her fault. It was her fault for the things that were going on in the house. She was always independent, she said, but lacked confidence and definitely lacked self-esteem. And during some exploration, she asked a teacher that she was close to in primary school that played a big part in her life, how he saw her as a child. I'm just going to go into my phone to kind of pick up on this. You can skip the next slide and go on to the photograph, Anne-Marie, please. This is a photograph of this girl when she was 7. And what he said was, "You were obviously bright, interested, and as they say, never a ha'porth of bother. I distinctly remember you deriding the girls in your class for their obsessions with trivial things and telling me that you were going on to greater things. You'd left childish things behind long before they had, and although I was aware of this, I didn't think this was anything other than you exercising your intelligence and individuality. Thinking about it, and it was a long time ago, I think I was your best friend in that class. Although you were sociable, I think you had little in common with many of those in your class. Certainly I was your confidant. You used to lean on my desk and tell me all sorts of things on a daily basis. Your brothers figured large in your chats. I remember your mother as a dominant and perhaps domineering figure. I can't remember you telling me anything about your father. I am now wondering at the significance of all of this. Another teacher's shorthand word comes to mind. You were old-fashioned, serious and hard-working. Looking back now, there was an underlying sadness that it sounds as though I misinterpreted. You were also determined and I always thought you'd be successful. I wish I'd known about the adversity you've had to overcome." And that's that child that he's talking about, age 7, at the time he was teaching her. And kind of when, he's talking about that child, it doesn't sound like he's talking about a 7-year-old. Next slide. And that 7-year-old girl was me. And what he said about me was, "Dorothy, a serious name for a serious little girl." And what I want to say really is to not offer every available support to people that we work with, to the community we serve, is wrong. A mobilised, visible recovery community is vital to offer hope to the families and those that need it. Stigma towards people in recovery in active addiction must be challenged. It impacts on families too. And I'm just going to end by saying we can and do recover.